Thank God you're not a script supervisor on a movie set.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Listography. Jason, Joe, and Cramser, and Shannon from Shannon Talks Music. The first guest on the channel.
Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you. One of our favorite YouTubers. She's got a great channel. We'll have a link to her down in the description. You can check that out. But we've got a new series that we're kicking off today. We get a lot of requests, or I guess recommendations, sent our way. And I think whenever you're watching a YouTube channel or a YouTuber that talks a lot about music, I think the automatic impulse is to kind of recommend something to them. Like there's always something near and dear to you that you want them to hear. So we get a lot of that. And I thought it would be fun to kind of make a game of it, do sort of like competitive music recommending. Each of us are going to recommend a record to Shannon. She's going to recommend a record to each of us. We're going to listen to them, and then we're going to reconvene. And Shannon will choose her favorite of the three, and we will score a point. And that point will carry into future episodes. So those will accumulate. And also we will give her records that she recommends to us a star rating. And as we go through the series, we will rank the records that we are recommended. So the best way that I could think of to sort of start this was to come up with a list of like 5 records to help that person recommend a record to you. So we each came up with a list of 5 records that kind of explain our taste. So it could be like our 5 favorite records ever, or just 5 that sort of hit on different aspects of things we like. I guess, why doesn't Cram go first and talk about the 5 records that he chose to help Shannon out?
Okay. First of all, this is a game show. Where the hell is like your flashy suit? This is BS. You should be wearing a cool suit and have like a 1960s, just like omnidirectional mic. There you go. Perfect. So these are not in any means my top 5 favorite albums ever, but I went with Love Is Hell by Ryan Adams just because I needed some like sad singer-songwriter stuff that's also updated. I got Honky Chateau, some 70s singer-songwriter stuff with just one of my favorite artists ever in there by Elton John. Got The Bends by Radiohead because everyone who watches the channel is either with me with Radiohead or sick of me talking about them all the time. So got to get Radiohead in there. Had to go a little bit of 80s with a little bit of funk and flash in there. So I went Purple Rain by Prince. And then Tommy is my second favorite album of all time, just to get a little bit of like, it's not prog rock, but it's very instrumental and nature dominant, sort of like that. You get the overtures, you get the Who, a little bit of psychedelia in there. So I thought that was, it still feels like there's a ton of stuff I'm missing, but those are my 5.
For me, I picked Whatever and Ever Amen by Ben Folds because it sort of encompasses my love of piano and smartassery. You know, you get Ben Folds, Elvis Costello, Joe Jackson, kind of all that in one, I think, with Ben Folds. I have also, with Cramser, Purple Rain because Prince is my musical god and I love him, and it's probably my favorite album of all time. But don't hold me to that because I also picked Physical Graffiti, which might be my favorite album of all time. Zeppelin, 70s rock, that is who I am. I also have Angel Dust by Faith No More because it's incredibly weird and I love the funk bass, but it's just sort of all over the place. That would be a good album to kind of explain my eccentricities a little bit. And then finally, Talking Book by Stevie Wonder, just because I think his run in the 70s was probably my favorite pop run of albums ever. And I just think he's just the best songwriter. So yeah, Stevie Wonder, Talking Book makes up my final pick. And that doesn't really encompass all of who I am, but it's a good start.
My 5 are going to be the White Album by the Beatles. Beatles are my favorite band, and I feel like that there's just such a wide sort of swath of things that they do on that record. It covers a lot of ground, so I thought that was a good one to pick. I also have Ziggy Stardust. As far as rock and roll goes, that's, I think, very indicative of the kind of rock and roll I like, kind of flashy, a little campy, a little over the top. Something Anything by Todd Rundgren, another pick, a very varied record, double album, but really kind of like the 70s singer-songwriter vein that I like a lot. I also have Yankee Hotel Foxtrot as a pick, which kind of covers my Americana bases, but also shows that I don't mind a little experimentation as well. And Where You Been by Dinosaur Jr., because even though I don't seem to like talk about a lot of heavy music, I do like loud guitars.
Okay, so for my five, the first one I did was Hijira by Joni Mitchell, because I'm obsessed with Joni Mitchell. She's my favorite artist, and I love female singer-songwriters. Second, I did Sticky Fingers by the Stones, because I love just straight ahead rock and roll. I did Fleetwood Mac 75 to indicate my interest in just standard pop rock, good melodies. I did Hounds of Love by Kate Bush, because I like art rock, stuff in that vein like Peter Gabriel and Genesis. And finally, I did Alligator by The National, because I am a big fan of alternative music of the more recent years, not just all old stuff.
All of my picks were Album of the Year winners, except Love is Hell in the loaded 2004. So they are dear to my heart, these albums, just not the exact top five.
All right, so I think that sort of gives us a good starting point to make our picks from. Cram, what do you got for Shannon to listen to?
Well, not knowing even if you knew early Sarah Jaffe stuff when she was more folk pop, which I actually prefer to this album I recommended, I picked 2014's Don't Disconnect by Sarah Jaffe because female singer-songwriter. I'm with you there. I love Joni. I love, you just put out the Regina Spektor video. I love Regina Spektor. Sarah Jaffe, I really like. This album goes like a different direction than her earlier stuff. And I wanted to see what you thought about the way, even if you don't know the early stuff, her sort of like folk senses of songwriting kind of goes into this more like electro pop kind of style. So that's why I thought you might like it for its inventiveness and just like, I think she's a great songwriter with just like the purity of her lyrics and songs. So that was my recommendation to Shannon.
For Shannon, I picked an album that I only recently sort of discovered, but I thought with the Joni Mitchellness, the Canadianness of this artist, ironically named U.S. Girls, the album In a Poem Unlimited from 2018, just really good, like razor sharp lyrics, Meg Remy. It's a little danceable. It's fierce. It's good female singer-songwriter. And I just figured I wanted something newer and not, I didn't want to dip into like classic rock or anything because it's tough to pick something for someone you don't really know and you're only going off 5 albums. So I figured it was sort of obscure enough, but also very critically acclaimed. But I feel like it slipped under the radar a little bit. So I figured it would be a good shot. I don't know.
By the way, Joe, good call on that U.S. Girls album. That's a good recommendation for her, and I do like that one more than the 2020 release.
For my pick, I'm going to recommend Who Are You Now by Madison Cunningham. I think we were kind of all thinking along the Joni Mitchell line. I think everyone that knows your channel at all knows that you're a big Joni fan. I just think it's a really good singer-songwriter record, but also I think her guitar playing is really good. And I think she kind of thinks outside of the box when it comes to chord progressions and like, it's just a little bit unusual, some of her choices. And I think that kind of fits into the Joni thing. So yeah, I think you will like it.
Plus, Shannon comments a lot with her lists for album of the years. So I'm aware of like a lot of stuff you have heard. So it's kind of difficult for me to like find something obscure that I didn't think you knew. So may have gone too obscure or like not even Sarah Jaffe's best stuff, but yeah, that was a tricky part of this whole game show as well. So because we all listen to a lot of stuff.
That was the hardest part for me, was picking things that you hadn't heard.
So what records have you got for us?
Okay, so I did actually use I was thinking and have brainstorming, but then I actually used the 5 albums that you provided as the direction. So for Jason, I saw that it had Beatles, Bowie, and Todd Rundgren, and that led me to melodic, good guitar playing, and slightly glammy. And that made me think of Be-Bop Deluxe, so I recommended the album Sunburst Finish by Be-Bop Deluxe.
I will say that that is a band that has been on my to-do list for a long time. I've kind of sampled some of their stuff, and they are on our big, huge master list of bands that we eventually want to talk about or like do a listography of on the channel. But I've never listened to a full album, so I think you're on the right track.
For Cram was actually the most difficult from that list of 5 because I could have gone in so many different directions. I decided to focus on the Love is Hell suggestion, and I know that you really like Kurt Vile. So I recommended the album At the Cut by Vic Chestnut, which is a really strong songwriter album. It's very dark, from the late 2000s, I think 2009. So that was the direction I was going for that pick.
The only Vic Chesson I knew before was Merriment from 2000. And I only knew it, I don't remember it at all, but it was cataloged in my like Google sheet for a long time. I think it's because he used to play a lot of stuff with Silver Mount Zion. And so I think I just like had that on my iPod back in college and like listened to like one random Vic Chestnut thing, gave it a star rating, was totally just like, I have no idea what this is going to be like. It could have been a trip hop album for all I knew. So it was basically a total surprise for me who this artist was.
Cool. And for Joe, I was going in the direction of picking something that was just pop, that was just extremely hooky, just hooks. But then I saw that it was Prince and Stevie Wonder, so I decided to go in a funkier direction. And the album that I eventually ended up recommending is Bang by World Party, which is sort of an alternative rock album, but it has a lot of funky Prince influence on it. So a blend of multiple things that I know that Joe likes.
World Party is an interesting one because I am familiar with World Party, and I do like Goodbye Jumbo from 1990, as well as their debut. And there's a couple songs that I really love for them. When the Rainbow Comes and Ship of Fools, I think made my like top 100 most listened to songs a couple years ago on my Spotify end of year list or whatever. So but I never heard Bang before. So that'll be interesting to see because I don't hear a lot of Prince or that funky element in their earlier stuff. So that's kind of piquing my interest. What is that going to sound like?
All right, so we are going to go and listen to these records and come back and reconvene in a day or two and let you know what we think of them and rate them for you. So we will be right back. All right, so we are back. We have listened to each other's recommendations, and we're going to give some quick reviews for you. And then at the end, Shannon's going to tell everybody which of our picks she liked the best. So who wants to start? Cram, you want to go first?
Okay, I'll go first. Like I said before the other day, I knew one Vic Chestnut, or at least had a catalog, but really this was all entirely new. So Shannon described this based off my Love is Hell pick as something kind of like dark, a little bit moody singer-songwriter style, and she was correct in a very good way. I'm giving this MFer 4 stars. I very, very, very much liked it. So a little bit of backstory about him. He was handicapped, or he became handicapped and partially paralyzed in the early 80s, and it definitely affected his temperament. So what you get with this album is like this beautiful, like troubled highway Americana sort of thing, but not just like one note. You get like parts of every kind of corner of America. You get some more jazzy, loungy stuff. You get some more like rustic stuff. And I just really like how good he is at communicating his general disposition. It's not dark and down enough to really get you like depressed, but you definitely know the mood and like his headspace and his state of mind. Really like the first song, Coward. I like the cinematic dynamic of the instruments that come in towards the end. He's almost doing like, when he's saying like I'm a coward, like it's almost like a performance piece with these big like deliberate motives here. Not crazy about the second song on it. When the Bottom Fell Out, it's a little bit too sparse for me, but every other song on this album hits a chord. China Berry Tree has these really awesome guitar parts and arrangements, very dark and moody. You get like this sense of like desperation with the way he writes his guitar parts, just swirling around. And then in the middle, you get this like sort of loungy, jazzy stuff with Chain. And I think the heart and soul of the record is right in the middle. We Hovered with Short Wings is also sort of in that same vein. And my favorite thing about that song is really detailed that the mic's picking up on the snare drum creates like this wave, like rain, like atmosphere that just like, you just hear like the snare drum barely like rattling and it just like washes over you. It's really nice and serene. I also like the way it finishes. It ends on a really good note. Lyrically, with Granny, says like literally the last verse of this is "Light up my life, beat of my heart," and I believe this is the last album he recorded. He did pass away from a muscle relaxer overdose in December of 2009. Maybe I would have flipped the second to last song just because it has like a really nice swelling build to it, and I think just like emotionally and musically, that song's called "It Is What It Is" would have maybe been a better sound for the album to end with, but lyrically, Granny's a good way to end it. Yeah, I thought it was really good all the way, pretty much through. 4 stars. That means I think it's great, and it makes me want to check out more of his stuff. Probably would have liked it even more if we were doing this in the winter. I'm in like fun summer mode right now, and it's definitely not a very fun record, but still good enough to be very impressed with and enjoy. So very good selection by Shannon.
I'm glad to hear that. So Cram recommended the album Don't Disconnect by Sarah Jaffe for me. All 3 of you went the female singer-songwriter route, which is fine. That's fine. That's most of the recommendations that I get. This album was interesting because it is really synthy, but it's sort of like an alternative album or a songwriter album playing dress up as a synth pop album. And she uses, the thing that stood out for me most was the way that she used repetition. It's a very repetitious album, but she does it in a good way, that it's not annoying. It's more like hypnotic. A lot of repetitious bass, the lyrical content she repeats over and over again, but it worked for me. And I liked that her voice has kind of like an iciness to it. There's a darkness to this record underneath all of the synth beds. My only complaint about it was that I think it's a little bit too long. It's 12 tracks and 51 minutes. It's one of those situations where you could cut 2 songs and it would be a stronger record, especially with the way she's using so much repetition. But Some People Will Tell You and Fatalist were the 2 standout tracks for me. I really enjoyed it. If you would like me to give a star rating, I can do that. I would give it probably a 3.5.
All right, I'll go next. Shannon recommended the Be-Bop deluxe album Sunburst Finish for me from 1976, a band that's been on my radar, but I haven't gotten around to yet. So I'm glad that she kind of forced me to listen to them. Thought it was really fun, a little campy, a little over the top, good rock and roll. It's a little proggy, a little arty, a little new wave, even back in 1976. The song Ships in the Night to me sounded a lot like Squeeze. I think it was a good pick for me. I can see clearly like the train of thought that she used to get to this record. Very 70s in the production, which I love, great musicianship. And like she said, she was thinking great guitars also. And there's a lot of really good guitar solos on this record. I liked it a lot. I'm going 4 stars also. She is a good recommender so far. For me, the strongest tracks were Heavenly Homes and Crying to the Sky.
Okay, and the album that Jason recommended to me was Who Are You Now by Madison Cunningham, which was an album I had heard of, but I had not heard yet. And I really enjoyed this record because it has a good blend of influences on it. You can hear she has jazz in there, she has blues in there, she has folk in there, but also a really good pop sensibility. There's really good melodies. Some singer-songwriter albums can be a bit samey, and this one is not. There's a lot of variety on it. Good guitar playing. There's a good amount of like swagger on it also. It's kind of a sassy record in some places, especially the opener, Pin It Down, which is one of the best songs for me. And like Jason said, she uses chords and time signatures, so the songs are just more interesting than when you get on some other records. And I liked the lyrics as well. It was a lyrically vulnerable and honest record. So Pin It Down and the song Common Language, which had a really good build and string arrangement on it. And the one thing that was like sticking in my head the entire time I was listening to this is vocally, she reminds me a lot of Sheryl Crow. Like they sound very similar vocally. So really enjoyed this one. Very strong songwriting. I can definitely see why you recommended it to me. I give this one four stars.
All right. Well, Shannon recommended to me Bang by World Party. And she said she recommended it because it has a stronger Prince kind of funky vibe. And I think it was a good pick for that. World Party is an interesting band. They sort of have a ceiling for me of like probably 4 stars. It's mostly the work of one guy, Carl Wallinger. This one, he brought in a couple other people to be like an official band, but this is their 3rd album. I always think the band World Party, the first time I heard them, I thought it was like a recent song. So I always thought they sounded like 10 years ahead of sort of when they actually existed, which was early 90s, late 80s. Kind of like, it's hard to pin down exactly their style. I think their first albums were a little like John Lennon-y, some Beatles influence, but sort of like late 80s pop. This one, I don't know. It was fine. It was good. I like the funky Prince influence. And lyrically, I think he's good. This one's very socially conscious, which I didn't get much from his last albums, Goodbye Jumbo and Private Revolution. So he's trying for something a little more, pertinent and important, I guess. I just didn't hear as many hooks as I liked. I didn't get that like big single like Ship of Fools or When the Rainbow Comes. Really love from them, from their earlier releases, and I was kind of looking for that like just really melodic, fun, upbeat pop sound. And I think they went a little too much groove on this one, maybe not enough hooks. World Party probably, they're 4 stars at best. And I think this is just a little bit off of like Goodbye Jumbo, which is my favorite from them. So it's 3.5. It's good all the way through, but I'm just left wanting that like really strong pop radio single.
That's his favorite rating.
That is my like standard rating for something that like I like, but is just missing that like one thing to get it over. The 3.5 to 4 stars is the hardest hump to climb over.
I would actually give that record 3.5 also. I just like so Joe recommended In a Poem Unlimited by US Girls to me. This was great. I really like how confident it is. This is a really urgent record. And I love that it juxtaposes really playful theatrical music with really angry lyrics. Most of this record is about violence against women and she's not happy about it, but it sounds really good. It's really well produced. And she does that thing that's happening a lot in modern music where it's walking this line between being indie and being pop. And the line is just getting blurrier and blurrier. It's both. A song like Rosebud is just a great pop song, but it's on an album that isn't really a pop album. Rage of Plastics is my favorite song on this one, which has a sax on it that is really interesting, unnerving. It reminded me of King Crimson and how they use sax. So this is really great. I give this one 4 stars as well.
Everyone's happy. Wow, what a good turn of events.
So we got 2 4-star ratings from Shannon. So you got to decide, what's it going to be? Which one did you like more?
Okay, so the one that is getting the crown and the point, I guess, is In a Poem Unlimited by US Girls. Joe gets the point. Sorry. They're both really good.
I'm feeling real strong about the next episode, though. I think I'm going to tie it up.
We'll see, Jason. I think actually, this was my most confident pick, I think, of anyone that we did. The other picks I did are just totally off the wall, but I felt like I had a winner with US Girls, and I'm glad to see it turned out.
I have Dylan in the bag, so I'm guaranteed 1 point. I know he's going to love the album.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and playing. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as well.
I did, and I am looking forward to seeing how the whole tournament ends up.
I guess in the comments, you can leave recommendations for Shannon. I'm sure she'll be down there seeing what everyone says. if you have an idea. You can also leave recommendations for us that we will probably never get a chance to listen to, but you can try. And if you like the video, if you like this new sort of idea for programming, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell for notifications and check the description for links to all of our social media accounts, as well as to Shannon's channel, Shannon Talks Music. It's really great. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.